piece
hello.
in the LA Times.
Been a while. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Or whatever. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, exactly. So you wrote a piece in the LA Times, Harry, that I was reading that, you know, it is so exasperating, I think, today. First of all, that, you know, Matt Gaetz, you know, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But, you know, the fact that it seems like Pence will succeed in at least the kind of delay that Donald Trump has engaged in forever, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. All of a sudden, he's a legislative branch official. Give me a break. But I'll bet this is what happened. You know, they were negotiating for a couple months. I'll bet his lawyer said, this is what we're going to do. We can really tie things up for a while. And eventually Jack Smith said, I don't care. We're coming at you, and filed the subpoena. But this, in contrast to the entire executive privilege claim that Trump will make, Meadows, everyone has made, and the courts have begun to make really quick work of, this is some untrod ground. And it doesn't make sense that it would prevail. But there's some issues. For example, as the vice president even have the protections of the speech and debate clause, which says the Senate, but then says senators and representatives, and other things like that. The Supreme Court hasn't developed this very much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see briefing, I see argument, I see Court of Appeals, maybe even the Supreme Court. I see months before this one is resolved.
Yeah. Well, you made, you know, some great points. You said, I don't think the claim will ultimately prevail, but you said it's hard to imagine a less legislative and more executive function of the vice president than the one-on-one conversations Pence and Trump had that are the linchpin of what the special counsel's seeking. The vice president may wear two constitutional hats, but that doesn't mean he can put them on simultaneously. And for the purposes of the case Smith is developing, Pence was firmly in his executive branch role.
How can you be more? He's in the White House having the one-on-one with Trump. If he's ever an executive branch official, he is. There's, by the way, some people are saying, oh, the Department of Justice already has argued that he's covered by it. That's a mistake. That was in a case in which what was being challenged was the certification on January 6th. Yeah. Okay, if he's ever in a legislative role, it's then. But you know, it's not just, you know, you have that sort of sanctimonious quote up front. I don't know why he skeeves me so much when he goes into these sort of ponderous hedged sound bites.
You said first of all, he's no longer
it's really tiresome to me. This claim is lawyer concocted to have the leverage pushback on Smith for delay. And, you know, Smith, to his credit, I think, my best guess, what did he want? He said, I don't want to testify under oath. And Smith said, you know, that's my speculation of how the back and forth would have gone. So, you know.
My new rescue dogs are very upset about this whole legal development.
I know, those poor guys. They can sense your kind of consternation.
Right. You cannot negotiate with terriers. I just want you to know that. Okay,
you just gotta love them up.
You make some great points that he's no longer a legislative official. The subpoena was served on him as a private citizen. Bottom line, Pence's gambit should fail, but it probably won't do so as quickly as a straight executive privilege argument. That means it could prolong it into the heart of the 2024 presidential campaign. You say in that event, Smith might be forced into a choice between foregoing Pence's testimony or conducting the first ever prosecution of a former president in the middle of a campaign in which he is the front runner for a major party's nomination. I mean, Harry,
that would be kind of funky, huh?
But it just makes us furious to go like this puts you above the law. Right. You know, as one of our guests said, like, oh, great, I'm going to go shoot someone and then run for mayor, so they can't, you know, like.
You know, look, I actually think they've contemplated this. I don't think they'll shy away from that scenario, but what a, you know, bizarre and fraught scenario it would be. But they're ready to go. Of course, just on the other side of the campaign is you want your terrorists to just roll over and die, is the prospect that could Trump actually win, and then all bets are off.
Oh God!
And if we come to the shadow if we come to the shadow of death that way, you know, we're mighty afraid for many reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't think they'll flinch for bringing it. But man, it gets very tricky. I do think Pence, you know, for his sanctimony, was thinking politically. there would have been some advantage to him to kind of get this behind him. Now it hovers over him. He could have really stuck inflicted some damage on his former boss who acted recklessly. But I think I think whoever wins the Republican nominations got to get the lion's share of the 30% of the MAGA voters that are now uber loyal to Trump. Right. Well, and I think he was scared to do anything that didn't, he had a subpoena, but if he didn't fight it, I think he concluded no way he gets those voters. I don't see how he gets them anyway.
But you just
my bailiwick.
You close with Trump could still parachute in with this executive privilege thing. You said Trump and his former cohorts are taking the Justice Department.
I speculated that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but your tape up front had Pence saying he's gonna do that. So that's the first time I've actually heard that confirmed.
Yeah. I mean, but this is what we've seen for years. It's just delay. Anyway, the good news is you seem to be heartened by Jack Smith. You said another aggressive, encouraging move by Jack Smith. It's the motion to pierce the attorney-client privilege between Trump and Evan Cochran on the ground that Trump was using him to facilitate a crime. Noteworthy for starters that the DOJ is embracing. It's the crime fraud exception, right?
You got it. And what's the crime here? Obstruction of justice. So Corcoran is the guy who drafts the statement saying, in response to a subpoena, that you have to comply with, saying, we've done a meticulous search, there's nothing left. And then he turns to Christina Bobb, the junior lawyer, and says, sign right here. Right. And she says, she puts in some hedge language. But they brought him before the grand jury. I mean, think about the backstory there, Steph. Maybe is Corcoran such a loyalist that he did it and didn't even let Trump know, so Trump would have deniability? Or was he in touch with Trump? And did Trump say, you can just imagine, here's what we say this, don't worry about it, these are all mine anyway, screw them. They put him in front of the grand jury and said, what are the words? And these words could be really, as solid and sort of high octane evidence as a jury is going to hear. And he said attorney-client privilege. And Smith, Mueller had a little dance like that with Trump, and he curtsied and moved away. Smith said, I'll see you in court, and he's moved to Pierce on crime fraud. Well, and remember all the brouhaha when Judge Carter out our way said there was a crime fraud exception. That was the Eastman case. So this would be the same thing if they find, if the judge here, Beryl Howell, the head of the Chief Judge D.C. Circuit, finds crime fraud exception satisfied. That's big news in and of itself. And it's also big news that they brought it, because you got to really, to go after a lawyer like this, you have to really get a lot of high-level approval from DOJ. So this is Smith being uncowed that it's the former president of the United States he's investigating.
Yeah, and by the way, the Meadows subpoena, you write, is another indication it's late in the game for Smith. They won't subpoena Trump. He's a target, so Meadows is about the highest subpoena recipient out there. So either way, with Meadows and Pence, then, we're in the end game. What does that mean legally?
So. Now the end game could take a little. First of all, this is the biggest to me of all. Pence has some very good isolated evidence where we know what was happening, right? Trump was ripping him a new one and doing everything he could to get him to break the law. But Meadows is everywhere and knows everything. And this, I think, is the final step before deciding whether to indict Trump. And he's so far been very lucky and well lawyered. But, now it's like, okay. Yeah. I don't think anybody expects he's going to go in the grand jury and just spill his guts. This is the overture to negotiations. And Meadows, I think, will, if I were his lawyer, I'd be looking for immunity. And a DOJ would say they'd be very reticent to do it unless this was the only way to get at Trump. So that's already a high-stakes game of chicken. But if Meadows might try, but all he's got is executive privilege. He's not an officer of the legislature, so I think they make quick work of that. And now, I think the basic play is we're going to charge you, pal, tomorrow if you don't, and then you decide whether to cooperate. We're not giving you immunity. That is the end game.
Yeah.
That is signing up Meadows to cooperate against Trump or doing everything they can to do it.
Yeah.
That's
sure.
That's really near the final move.
Andrew Weissman tweeted, will be hard for Meadows to lie with impunity in the grand jury. Totally right move to subpoena him to ratchet up the pressure on him to come clean. If he lies, he will face perjury and obstruction charges. So, it seems like we are like, all those expressions are, the rubber hits the road, whatever, right? I mean,
but I just want to say, I think so in terms of steps. But this could, everyone gets all, okay, so another 3 days? That's crazy.
3 hours for me.
Final, the law grinds slowly, but it grinds fine. So, this play in the courts, if he makes it, that's months, not, days. A couple months.
Yeah.
But, I think it's really big. And, Andrew's tweet, and anything Andrew says is worth listening to, but he assumes that Meadows shows up to testify in the grand jury. I think without a deal, that doesn't happen. And with a deal, of course, if he makes a deal and then goes in and lie, he's a friggin' idiot, and he's got too good counsel for
That's
that.
a legal term.
Exactly.
Yeah,
what was that saying? The line grinds slowly, but it grinds fine?
The law
grinds slowly, but it actually it grinds exceeding fine. Not exceed, I think. That's like some 16th century Blackstone thing. I don't know.
I like my justice and my pepper coarse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, Stephanie usually likes things...
then you've been happy these last several months.
Yes.
It's been pretty coarse out there.
Yeah, Stephanie likes things instantly, so I might need to use that line when she says, but I want it now.
Whatever.
Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner wherever you generally get your podcasts.